Motherboard report finds Shotspotter. You heard that right. Shotspotter is altering evidence at cops' request. So let me give you some background on this. There's a court filing reviewed by Motherboard, analysts for this company called Shotspotter. This is a surveillance system that uses hidden microphone sensors to detect gunshots in open areas. If gunshots go off, the sensors go off and alerts law enforcement, okay? Already seems quite intrusive, right? Some of these requests made by police are grasping for evidence that supports their narrative of events. So literally they are being accused of changing the data to support their narrative of a criminal action. On May 31st, I'm gonna give you some details. On May 31st, last year, 25-year-old Safarain Herring was shot in the head and dropped off at St. Bernard Hospital in Chicago by a man named Michael Williams. He died 2 days later. What a tragedy, right? Horrible tragedy. Chicago police eventually arrested the 64-year-old Williams and charged him with the murder. Williams maintains that Herring was hit by a drive-by shooting. A key piece of evidence in the case is video surveillance footage showing Williams' car stopped on the 6300 block of South Stony Island Avenue at 11:46 p.m. It's important to remember that. The time and location where police say they know Herring was shot. How did the police know this, according to them? How did they know exactly where Mr. Herring was shot? How did they know where the shooting took place? That night, 19 Shotspotter sensors detected a percussive sound at 11:46 p.m. and determined the location to be 5700 South Lakeshore Drive, a mile away from the site where prosecutors say Williams committed the murder. According to a motion filed by Williams' public defender, the company's algorithms initially classified the sound as a firework. That's what it was initially identified as, a firework. That weekend had seen widespread protest in Chicago in response to George Floyd's murder, and some of those protesting lit fireworks. So the technology literally said, we're classifying this as a firework. But after the 11:46 p.m. alert came in, a Shotspotter analyst manually overrode the algorithms and reclassified the sound as a gunshot to fit his narrative, to fit the case. Then months later, and after post-processing, tampering with evidence, another Shotspotter analyst changed the alert's coordinates to a location on South Stony Island Drive near where Williams' car was seen on camera. They manipulated what the technology said was a gunshot. Technology said these were fireworks. They said, no, we're gonna override it and tell the system it was gunshots. Another analyst comes in at the request of the law enforcement officer or agency, and they then change the location. No, it wasn't over here. The machine got it wrong. The technology is incorrect. It was actually over here. It just happens to be where Williams was at, according to what they deemed to be true. Here are details from the Shotspotter alert showing the sound was manually reclassified from a firecracker to a gunshot. Put that graphic up, there it is. It keeps the record, it shows it. The prosecutors eventually withdrew their Shotspotter evidence against Williams to avoid a Fry motion. That's your scientific basis of evidence motion. A request for the judge to examine and rule on whether a particular forensic method is scientifically valid. Motherboard discovered an unsettling pattern for this technology, currently already used in over 100 cities. That's a whole lot of tampering with evidence, and I don't see no damn body going to jail. Adrienne, let me put it this way. Obviously, the cops and whoever worked with them to tamper with evidence, they should be arrested. They should be charged with the appropriate crimes. But think about it this way too. If you're manipulating technology like this, it will never be useful to prosecute people that it should prosecute. Because every time you use it now, because of what these guys have done, it can always be questioned. So it hurts all of law enforcement, even when you are appropriately prosecuting someone who deserves it. What are your thoughts?
I think it really does put into perspective who is law enforcement really looking to target, because clearly it's not necessarily people who commit crimes. And coming off of our story where we just talked about Florida saying it's using unbiased technological advancements to identify criminals when it's really honestly just feeding more potential people into its criminal justice system. In this situation here, we have something similar where we have Chicago, which has a long history of police misconduct, abuse, falsifying evidence. What it's doing is just, again, with this Shotspotter thing, where it's unreliable. It's proven to not reduce gun crimes. And the thing that really gets me is that so far this year, the courts in Chicago have been weeding through falsified evidence for months in connection with the former Ida B. Wells housing project. And so far that they have dismissed over 100 cases where officers planted evidence, falsified it. And recently, I believe it was about February 9th, more individuals were exonerated after they were sentenced to prison using falsified evidence there in Chicago. The thing is we have a problem where law enforcement doesn't necessarily see that there is actually crimes, but they're out almost committing them or falsifying evidence so that they can justify their jobs and maybe enjoy reinforcing the systems that we have.
At some point, the culture of policing, to maintain or to even increase some level of trust, they have to be in the business of arresting their own. They're going to have to start doing it. It is a clear violation. If you tamper with evidence, that's against the law. If you write a false police report, that is against the law. If you kick a woman in the head while she's handcuffed, that is against the law. Both of those officers in the APD situation, they should have went ahead and arrested the man who did it. Arrest him on the scene. Let me ask you this, Adrienne, because I've never seen it before. Maybe it has happened before. I have never seen a police officer arrest another police officer on the scene. Why?
Yeah, I've actually seen it once. It happened somewhat recently where an officer he got physically forceful unnecessarily with a suspect and he was arrested on the scene. And so that was one of the rarest things I've ever seen. I've never seen it other than that one time in my life, and it was post George Floyd. The thing is, there are a lot of instances where things are not being documented or recorded, or these officers get to sit with impunity for months and months until there is possibly a civil suit. And all of a sudden the body cam footage becomes public on Twitter. But otherwise, it's not happening. It's not happening enough because we see it all the time.
Yeah, and even with clear, convincing, precise video evidence, they still have a union, they have lawyers, they have individuals that would donate money to them in the tune of hundreds of thousands. They have all of this. As soon as it is revealed, they actually violated the rights of another citizen.